Welcome everyone to Not That Media. My name is John, and in today's video I'm going to talk about one of the actresses that I'm intending to meet at this year's For the Love of Horror convention. This is part of a series of videos where I just spend a little bit of time talking about the actor or actresses that I'm intending to meet and giving you a couple of film recommendations. So come along with me as I talk about Amelia Kinkade. One thing that I find fascinating when I look back over the pantheon of horror franchises, so any film that's had multiple parts, more than 2 or 3 parts, is how underrepresented female killers, monsters actually are in these franchises. If you were to ask somebody now, name me 5 to 6 horror icons from the 80s and the 90s, inevitably they would always say the same people. Michael, Freddy, Jason, Chucky, Pinhead, Candyman, Leatherface, to name 7. That's without even trying. But very rarely do people actually throw a female name out there. Now, to clarify, I'm not talking about movies that has a female antagonist as the central character for one movie. So to give you an example, Misery is a great female representation of horror, but that's only a one-off movie. There wasn't multiple Miseries. The Exorcist, for example, doesn't qualify as well because Pazuzu is represented as a male demon, but also Regan plays both characters, and Regan doesn't continue into the sequels. I know she's in Exorcist 2, but by Exorcist 3 it's very much a male-driven monster. So my surprise when I actually sat down and thought about this and said, okay, how many franchises are there in the 80s, 90s and beyond where there is a female-centric killer that carries over, be it a supernatural or a slasher? And to the best of my ability, I actually only found 2. And ironically, they're both in the 80s and they both have the same name. The first one, which I won't spend a lot of time talking about now, or any time really, is Sleepaway Camp. Now, mild spoilers, but the film's over 40 years old, so sorry. Angela in the Sleepaway Camp franchise is a representation of a female killer. The problem is, in the first film, it's not revealed that she's the killer until the end of the movie. So technically speaking, there is a androgynous killer in the first film. You don't know if it's male or female, whereas in the second one it is then embraced in the second and the third. So this franchise, which I want to talk about today, with its lead actress Amelia Kinkade, who I want to meet in October and very excited to meet, I think she's the only example of a female horror icon that has stood the test of time, and actually you could put her up there with the Freddys and the Jasons and the Michaels. She may not have had 13 films, she may not have had 6 timelines and all this kind of stuff, but actually I think she stands up there as strong as those characters and should be represented, is what I would say. So after that little soapbox moment, I just wanted to get that out there because I find it fascinating that in all the horror franchises, female representation tends to be the woman on the train tracks, the woman in peril. So I think Amelia Kinkade's character of Angela, which I'm going to talk about now, is all the more important because she is arguably horror's one real, true, iconic female character in horror. Now, before you say anything as well, or before you get to your commenting, Scream. People will maybe argue that Scream is very strong at having female representative killers. I disagree with that statement, and I'll explain why. Ghostface is represented as a male icon. He is a male voice, he is a physical male presence, he is portrayed in a masculine tent. It's only when the mask comes off and it's revealed to be Roseanne's sister or the goth girlfriend from next door, and then the characters, it becomes more about the ensemble, the male and the female teaming up. So I don't agree, whilst I understand people may disagree with what I'm saying, I don't agree that Scream is very good at representing female horror characters. And plus, every single one of them dies in every film as well, so my qualification of a character that goes across all 3 doesn't quite stand. End of soapbox. So with that tangent now at an end, I don't want to jump back onto the point at hand, which was Amelia Kinkade and why I want to meet her at For the Love of Horror. Now, Amelia is best known in the acting world and certainly the horror road as the iconic character Angela in the Night of the Demons trilogy. Part 1 was released in 1988, followed up in 1994, and then concluded in 1997. She appears in all 3, and she's the only actress to appear in all 3 films. The first film in a nutshell, Angela is a relatively newfound goth girl who previously had gifts, as they're explained, but it's never really quite expanded on. She is planning a Halloween party with her best friend. Their intention is to take a group of friends and by accident a couple of gate crashers to Hull House. Hull House being the home of many a mass murder and used to be a mortuary. The place is so badly regarded it has been closed and abandoned because the town believe it's haunted, but as Angela says, it ain't haunted, it is cursed. It is so well believed that it is cursed and haunted that the property itself has a wall around it, which underneath it has running water, a little stream of running water, because legend has it demons cannot cross the stream. It's not Ghostbusters, but they can't cross the streams of water. Having gone to Hull House, Angela has the fantastic idea, no, not to sleep with the boys and have fun, but to have a seance and see if they can awaken the demons of the property. Using a mirror, she then does such a thing, and her and a couple of her friends are possessed within moments, and the night of terror actually begins. The magic of the property means that the wall closes itself out so no one can escape, and her friends have to survive the night with Angela, now possessed, raining terror on all of them. The film is a fantastic 1980s time capsule of filmmaking. It looks great, it sounds fantastic, everyone is giving it their all. The effects in this film is fantastic, and similar to Linnea Quigley, Amelia Kinkade steals the show. She is fun and silly even though she's representing this new goth look, she's introduced in a comedic way. She's a nice girl who just wants to have fun, she just wants to do this stuff. When she heel turns, each demon acts differently. She is very odd and makes things very uncomfortable. Her confidence results into her doing almost a kind of an interpretive dance, is what I would say, in an attempt to lure one of the boys. Amelia Kinkade herself, actually outside of the film, being a professional dancer and having been on music videos, including a Cher music video, she was quite at home when they asked her to do a dance in her black wedding dress. The scene is iconic, it is well represented, well remembered, but it is as entertaining, it is equally as terrifying, and the way the gentleman watching it reacts is exactly how the audience is reacting, which is what? Moments later, she is killing him, and it is terrifying. She, as an actress, she really gave 150% in that movie. Without saying too much, there is a scene where Angela has her hands in the fire, and you find out during the course of the making of that movie that Amelia Kinkade did have her hands in that fire. They were all protected and things, but she did legitimately put her hands in the fire and have her hands on fire. In 2024, we would do CGI on that kind of stuff, but in 1988, on a low-budget horror film, she was a real trooper for that. She was wearing demonic makeup that was so aggressive on her skin, it was hurting her, it was injuring her, it was taking hours for her to wear it, but it's all in there. When the cameras are on, when you're watching this film, she is terrifying. The iconic image of her floating down the corridor, looking at the camera, reaching for the camera, is something that as a child I remember seeing somehow, maybe on a trailer or a clip on television, and instantly being terrified. This was a film that I had no intention of ever wanting to see, because sometimes, Freddy, Jason, Michael, no, that doesn't frighten me, but for some reason Angela just hit that spot of fear. She then goes on, without saying, as I say, too much, she then goes on to, her demonic look continues to change as the film goes on. She just has so much makeup, so many appliances, teeth, hair, she's floating around, she is being treated in a very similar way, I would say, maybe to Bruce Campbell in an Evil Dead film, and the results on screen is a fantastic, iconically scary character in Angela. It should never ever be forgotten that actually, if you get it right, it stands the test of time. I don't have the nostalgia that a lot of people do. When I didn't see it in 1988, so I don't have that nostalgia to say, okay, in 2024, I think this film holds up. Me and my wife watched it and we were both impressed. Night of the Demons will be in my annual rotation, and Amelia Kinkade deserves to stand up there with Freddy, Jason and Michael. If you've not seen this film, watch it for that, and I'm sure you'll agree with me. Now, Night of the Demons 2 is an interesting one because it came out a few years later, and despite the fact that it would appear that all the characters had in effect died, all the demons had died, somehow, and it's never truly explained, Angela survived. Her body was missing and she returns, and the rumour has it that she haunts the house. So Amelia Kinkade returns, visibly older because it's 7-8 years, but that doesn't make any difference. She's still in her iconic black wedding dress. The makeup job is fantastic. The way to describe Night of the Demons 2 is in the same way as Phantasm and Phantasm 2 went from looking very dingy and dirty and low budget in a good way, and then went very clean and you could tell the studio and money was behind it, in the same way as Evil Dead 1 and Evil Dead 2 did. There's a real jump in Night of the Demons 2 in terms of quality, and maybe to the detriment of the movie. But essentially, a whole new group of teenagers, kids, have decided that they're going to break out of their school and go to Hull House because of the legends of Angela's ghost and all these kind of things. One of the girls, by complete coincidence and not mentioned in the first film, is Angela's sister. So Angela is actually reaching out to her to bring her to the house because she wants to use her. So essentially, Night of the Demons 2 is more of the first film, just on a higher budget. The film goes very wacky, is what I would say. Night of the Demons 1, although it has moments of comedy and has its elements of comedy, Night of the Demons 2 kind of follows Evil Dead 2's strategy in that we're going to go bigger, we're going to go crazier, we're going to go more explosive with the kills. But Amelia Kinkade delivers a fantastic performance. Angela's motives have changed, and the definition of Angela, the girl we knew, and Angela the demon get a little bit blurred. Her presence in the film, whilst explained, it's one of those you don't question it, if you know what I mean. You just enjoy the film for what it is. She's fantastic, well worth watching. Amelia Kinkade did return for Night of the Demons 3, as I've already mentioned, and unfortunately it was not a good film, Night of the Demons 3. As a horror fan, I appreciate that sometimes they just don't get it right. I appreciate that every franchise has its lull point, but I feel that it would be unfair of me to sit here and say Night of the Demons 3 is a good film, because it simply isn't. Amelia Kinkade is good and strong as Angela. She revels in the situation. She plays her character very well. She plays what she's given. At one moment, she's pretending to be the damsel in distress, good Angela, help me, please help me. And then the next second, she's the monster. She has some good laughs. She does her iconic dance for the third time. Again, the problem is none of it is as good as the first one. Like, the dance in the third one is nowhere near as good as the first one. And by the time you get to the third one, it almost feels like we're going through the motions. The effects, sadly, are not good in the third film. So I appreciate that I'm here to talk about recommendations for the actress, but I do recommend all three for her character and for her. However, I don't want anybody to be under the illusion that this is a solid trilogy. Part 1 is fantastic. Part 2 is pretty good. Part 3, very tragically, is not good. But what I would say is, if you are a fan of behind the scenes documentaries, commentaries, interviews with the cast years later, the story of Night of the Demons 3 is more interesting than the film that came to screen. Amelia Kinkade, she holds the film very highly in regard. She enjoyed the film. There is things in that film to enjoy, but I was very disappointed with that movie. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I do recommend all three Night of the Demons if you do want the full Amelia Kinkade experience in terms of her character of Angela. Personally, if you want only one film, it's got to be Night of the Demons 1. If you're just looking for that one example, she shines high. She does everything she's meant to do. She is really well received. She's really well presented in the film. The dance is fantastic and terrifying. The kills are fantastic and terrifying. Her look is iconic. Her character is iconic. The way she moves and she contorts and does all these things. She is a horror icon that deserves recognition in the same way as the Freddys and the Jasons and the Michaels. I think, unfortunately, because of poor physical release over in the UK, the Night of the Demons trilogy is a trilogy that goes very largely underlooked in the UK. But if you get a chance to look at it, if you can stream it, if you're thinking about, who is Amelia Kinkade, is she worth meeting? I would say yes. favorites, but obviously, yeah, each to their own. Night of the Demons will be in my annual rotation of Halloween movies. It's a perfect Halloween movie. Sequels, you take them as you do. Some people love a bad sequel, some people don't like bad sequels. Make your own decision with all these kind of things, but Night of the Demons trilogy. So with that being said, until next time, stay scared.
The party's just begun.